What's up guys, this is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video I want to review the Play Arts Kai Dante figure. This is the new version based on Devil May Cry 3. The other one was based on number 4. A lot of people like number 4 better, but this one definitely has its ups. It definitely has some good things to it. Most people are actually talking about the design rather than the figure itself, so we're just going to go ahead and ignore that opinion for the time being. This figure stands 10 inches tall, almost exactly to the top of the head, so it's just about in line with the last Dante figure. If you want to compare them, go ahead and look up the review I did for him. He's in the Play Arts Kai playlist. This guy comes with a decent set of accessories, and he's got the regular paint app and articulation from Play Arts, so we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about accessories first. He comes with, now let me note that I haven't played this game since it came out a long time ago, so I may not know the names of everything, namely this weapon. It's the guitar, the scythe weapon thingy. I cannot remember what it's called, but it doesn't really matter because it's still pretty cool. It's got a really nice sculpt to it. It's got all the details and coloring and shading and everything there. And it looks like the guitar when it's like this, and then it actually transforms into the scythe by unfolding like that, which is pretty cool. It doesn't look the best from the side because it's kind of hollow. Like, it reminds me a lot of kind of like the old Ninja Turtles accessories that unfolded. They always had missing chunks like this does, but it still looks pretty cool. The silver parts are painted well. The sculpt is good overall, and it doesn't fall apart. I mean, it holds its own weight just fine, so that's okay. Personally, for me though, it's not an accessory I'm going to be using a whole lot, just because it's kind of big and awkward, but it is cool that they included it. It was kind of an iconic weapon in the game. So you do have this, and it is pretty big. It is about 9 inches long, so pretty good size for this accessory, and like I said, the details are nice. He has both of his guns, of course, ebony and ivory, and they fit in the back holsters right there. Pull them both out. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure these are the exact same molds that we got from the other Dante figure. I could be wrong though. They have the lettering on there for both of them. You can see it much better on the black one. It looks better too, but it is there. I remember the grips having shading on them or wood grain texturing, but that could have been a different figure. So either way, these look really nice. The sculpt is great, and they just look good overall. So nothing to complain about there. He has his iconic sword, which pegs into his back in that hole right there. There's a peg right there. Go ahead and get rid of that. And here's the sword. Nice and metallic, really nice shading on there. Really clean paint work. Super smooth, looks great. Sculpt work is good on the handle. It looks like the sword itself is the same one that we saw with the other Dante figure, but it doesn't have a peg in the handle, a peg hole like the other one does. He can hold this one without a peg, so that's kind of nice. This is a really good accessory, and it is 9.5 inches long, so nice and big, and it does peg into his back like I said. As far as hands go, he has a right trigger finger hand and a left trigger finger hand and one left open hand. This, I assume, is for the guitar because it doesn't really hold anything at all, so it's just going to be kind of a supporting hand or the guitar hand thing. Otherwise, you have to use the trigger hands for the sword or the guns, obviously the guns, which works okay. They are effective enough to where it's not really a problem, and they don't look bad either. Okay, let's talk about paint application. Now, one thing Play Arts is kind of known for is making a lot of things really shiny, and probably the first thing you'll notice is the jacket's really shiny. To me, that's okay because it's leather, so it can get by being shiny. The pants are actually not shiny. They look like it in the camera because of all the harsh lighting, but the pants are not glossy at all like the jacket. So that's fine. The boots have some parts that are pretty shiny, but that's okay again for me because they're patent leather. The detail painting on them is really nice for the zippers and the buckles. And the skin isn't too bad. On the arm it's a little glossy. The torso is okay. but the face is really shiny. Like, I don't know why they do that, but it's not hard to fix. If you wanted to hit it with a brush on flat clear coat, I'm sure it would look great, or you can just leave it, because in person it's not terribly noticeable, especially when you don't have all this harsh light hitting it. But otherwise, the paint app's good. There's lots of shading throughout all of the red, tons and tons of shading everywhere. The gloves are painted fairly well. The skin comes through. There's not too much bleeding or runoff anywhere, so that's fine with me. All the rivets are painted well on the holster harness. All the buttons and zippers are painted fairly well. Really, there's not too much. My cat just broke something. There's not too much to complain about as far as the paint goes. There's nice shading in the hair. Everything's pretty much solid. The shading on the pants is really nice. So the paint app's fine. I'm not going to complain about it other than the glossiness. But if you're collecting play arts, then you know that that's going to happen. Let's talk about articulation. The head has just a ton of articulation, side to side, front and back. Plenty of motion, full rotation obviously. So really anything you want to do, you can do. The neck is not posable on this guy obviously for sculpt reasons. I'm fine with that because most of the time you can't pose the neck too much anyway. So that's fine with me. The shoulder has the swinging out horizontal, whatever you want to call that joint, so you can really get his arm across if you want to. And since the jacket is soft, it's not going to get in the way. It has splits everywhere it needs to, so you can get the arm out without tearing the jacket. It probably will tear a little bit though if you're not careful, but you shouldn't have too much trouble. And then of course it's a ball disc just like Marvel Legends, and that's actually connected on a ball peg, so on top of this forward moving joint you can rock the shoulder ball joint around on that, and then it's a ball disc on its own, so you have plenty of range of motion there, and a bicep swivel built in. The elbow joint is like the McFarlane Halo figures or the Figma figures. It's a ball disc that rotates at the bicep and at the forearm and is ratcheted. So plenty of range of motion. Even though it's a single joint, you get a little better than 90 degrees. So that's fine with me. And then you have the same type of joint for the wrist. The hands just come off of the peg. You give it a little wiggle as you pull so you don't tear anything apart. And then that's the type of peg you have for the hands. It can get stuck, so do be careful. If you just yank on it, you can break that ball joint fairly easily. The upper part of the torso, which is separated at the strap, so it hides the joint really well, is on at least a single ball peg. I'm not going to pop it apart to check, but it might be a double ball peg. It has pretty good motion. It goes from side to side, front to back. Really, anything you want to do, you can do. And because of that strap, they really did a good job of hiding it. It looks great. Only problem is, and this probably isn't really a problem because you're not going to be going like this a whole lot, but you can see that the strap is just sculpted right into the chest. It doesn't go too far around, and the shoulder joints come pretty far forward on the chest too. So as long as you don't pry open his jacket, you're not going to have any trouble. The lower torso is connected on a three-way ball peg just like the Figma figures. There's a ball peg that goes into the torso up here, then it comes down and branches off to each side to have a ball peg for each hip. So this has full range of motion again, being on a ball peg. It doesn't go forward too much, but with the upper one you have plenty range of motion. And of course it has a swivel since it's a ball peg. The hip piece is just floating soft rubber so it doesn't get in the way of the articulation, and it actually makes it look really nice no matter how you pose it. So these are those ball pegs I was talking about. They've done it slightly differently now to where the ball pegs have the ratcheted joint in there. And so that gives it a little bit sturdier articulation, but you still have the functionality of a ball peg. It's more of a ball disc now, really. So the thigh can rotate around that, and then of course it just goes up and down like you would always have. It's just all ratcheted now, so it's a little bit of a better joint than they used to do, but you still have the full range of motion. The knee is a double jointed knee, just like the play arts always do. It's pretty ugly looking if you use both joints. If you only use one joint, it's not too much of a problem. I think I prefer to use that one. Use the bottom joint. It looks a little bit better, just for me, proportion wise. But it does have the double joint, so if you want to, you can get a full, just about almost 180 out of that. So good articulation there. It is sculpted and painted all the way through. The foot, the top of the boot is not actually connected to the rest of the boot. The foot is connected through one of the ball discs like the shoulder or the wrists, and then this is just a floating piece. It gets stuck on the ball disc sometimes, but the top of the boot just floats there to hide the joint, and then the foot is fully posable just like the wrist or the elbows. And the peg for the foot, it comes down at an angle so that you can give it a little bit of an ankle rock, but you have to do it just right. And then the foot also has a cut joint to give him the extra mobility there, kind of like the Soda Street Fighter figures. So plenty of articulation there. Last but not least, you have the bottom parts of his jacket are actually connected on ball discs just like the wrists and elbows, and that allows you to put him in some pretty cool dynamic looking poses. If you wanted to, you could have him jumping or something, I don't know. However you want to use it, and that works really well because they're ratcheted and they're hidden. It does make this part of the jacket kind of pop out a little bit, but it's not too hard to hide, especially with the holsters, so I'm okay with it. It definitely gives to the posability factor, and that's a nice thing. So do I recommend this figure over the old Dante figure, or do I like the other one better? I like them both a lot. It really depends on well, probably now more than anything, it depends on your budget, because the old Dante figure is hard to come by and quite expensive. But they're both great. I think I like the outfit for the new one, the number 4, the Devil May Cry 4 figure, a little bit better. But this one definitely is a nice looking figure overall, and it's made really well. I don't have too many things to complain about, so I'm going to say I do recommend it. It's really just up to you which one you want to get. So that's it, guys. The rest is in your hands. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the review for Virgil, some other play arts, and some more customs and all that good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.